Look at this portrait. Who is this scary, wrinkled, bald old man? The richest person in the history of humanity. No family has amassed wealth as quickly as his. He is considered the creator of the modern world and the founder of a secret global government. Some cursed him and called him a devil, while others praised him as a generous philanthropist. His clan's surname has become a household name. That surname is Rockefeller. From childhood, he dreamed of being rich and living forever. His father peddled oil as a cure, but he drenched the world in oil. By the age of 45, he became the wealthiest man in the world. He plundered and ruined competitors, but donated billions to the poor. Perhaps his clan secretly rules the world. His surname is Rockefeller. Today, we'll talk about how to become fabulously wealthy and fulfill all your dreams. When it feels like the whole world is against you, John Rockefeller became the first oil magnate in history, and he remains the greatest to this day. Looking at his life, you can't help but wonder, how the heck did he do it? We'll try to uncover the components of Rockefeller's success. How must one think to get rich? Dreams are the most important thing in your life. A person dies when they stop dreaming, John Rockefeller believed. Well then, let's dive into his mind and find out what he dreamed about. And at the end, I'll share a few of Rockefeller's life rules that might help you. Facts from biography and childhood. So, young Rockefeller had two dreams, both, frankly, quite childish, to live forever and to be fabulously rich. Well, almost like that. He wanted to earn $100,000, that's nearly $2 million in today's terms, and live to 100 years old. In the end, he overachieved one dream, and with the other, well, he fell just a little short.
In the 93 years of my life, depressions have come and gone. Prosperity has always returned and will again.
Rockefeller was born 184 years ago in 1839 and was the second of 6 children. His family lived in a small town near New York. The irony is that oil, which the adult Rockefeller would turn into billions, seeped into their lives almost immediately. His mother, Eliza Davidson, was a devout Christian of Scottish descent, steadfast and strong-willed. She held together both the household and the family. But his father, William Rockefeller, was, let's say, a gentleman of fortune. Or, to put it plainly, a swindler and a rogue who scraped by with odd jobs. One day, William decided that the path to easy money lay in counterfeit medicines. He produced these quack remedies himself and peddled them to gullible Americans. The irony is that one such cancer cure contained raw, unprocessed oil. In those days, when John Rockefeller was still a little boy, oil was already around, but no one knew what to do with it. Cars didn't exist yet, and the process of refining oil into fractions hadn't been discovered. Black gold wasn't extracted industrially as it is now. It seeped to the surface on its own, and it was often used as a medicine, believed to be a cure for everything, from coughs to cholera and hemorrhoids. For instance, a popular remedy in the USA and Europe at the time, called Healing Patrol, was just a vial of oil that you were supposed to drink 3 teaspoons of daily. Perhaps not everyone survived this treatment. But to be fair, oil does have medicinal properties. In microscopic doses, it's found, for example, in aspirin. But that's another story. The oil fever in the USA would begin when John Rockefeller turned 19. That's when oil started being turned into kerosene. But more on that later. Let's return to Rockefeller's father. He didn't achieve much success in business, but he instilled a commercial streak in his children. He paid them for every achievement and chore around the house. For example, cleaning the house earned 5 cents, while chopping firewood brought in 15. For the kids, money from their father became a sort of measure of parental love. The more you earned, the more valued and loved you were considered by Dad. The father figure for a child represents authority and care. Keep this fact in mind. I think it's very important to Rockefeller's character. Money equals love. Money equals care. Money equals power. All of this was compounded by trauma. When Rockefeller was 14, his father abandoned the family and fled to Canada, where he married a second time without divorcing his first wife. But this was the 19th century, the Wild West. There were no registries or government services, just as most people had no documents. First and last job for hire. So John became the man of the house. He trained as an accountant, bypassing college and acquiring the necessary knowledge through a month-long course. From his early years, Rockefeller displayed his defining traits: business cynicism and a strategic approach. Even as a child, he lent money to friends at interest, bought candies in bulk, and sold them individually. He also reportedly caught wild turkeys, fattened them up, and sold them as farm-raised at a much higher price. From childhood, Rockefeller kept a ledger of expenses and income. A rather dull hobby for a 6-year-old boy, don't you agree? But if you remember that for Rockefeller, money was a measure of parental love, it all becomes a bit clearer. At 16, John decided it was time to get a job. Now, pay attention. He visited 100 companies before finding a small accounting firm that took him on. And Rockefeller, let me tell you, fully repaid that trust. When he took on a task, he latched onto it like a tick and didn't let go until he got everything he needed. That's how it was here. At 16, Rockefeller arrived at work first, around 7 in the morning, and left last at 9 in the evening. He didn't take smoke breaks, skipped drinking sessions with colleagues, and never touched alcohol his entire life. He wasn't interested in dancing. He just worked. Rockefeller understood that you need to invest maximum attention in a new endeavor, and then, in a short time, you'll achieve the most effective results. At first, he was an assistant accountant with a salary of 50 cents a day, about $10. Within a year, his salary tripled. At 19, he was offered a managerial position with a salary of $600, equivalent to $50,000 a month today. But Rockefeller declined. He realized that if you're always working, you won't have time to earn truly big money. That was his first and last job working for someone else. Oil fever. In 1859, the oil fever began in the USA. American businessman Edwin Drake discovered a method for extracting oil from wells, and it transformed the market. Oil was learned to be refined into kerosene, which was used to fuel lamps. In other words, oil was mainly used for lighting homes, and it instantly became a hot commodity. Hundreds of small companies across America started pumping this oil. This boom had a rather unexpected effect. It saved the whales. Before kerosene, lamps were fueled with whale oil. So many whales were slaughtered that only a miracle could save them from extinction. That miracle was oil. But the pioneers of oil extraction from wells didn't get rich. The Seneca Oil Company, where Edwin Drake worked, turned out to be unprofitable, and the entrepreneur himself died in poverty, never patenting his discovery. Meanwhile, all the goodies went, of course, to Rockefeller. Path to wealth. On his path to wealth, Rockefeller was consistent. He didn't invent anything new, but acted systematically. Or rather, he created systems wherever he could. All these corporations' strategies. Perhaps it was all a kind of simulator for him, a substitute for parental love, a substitute for family. Hence his passion and consistency in executing his plans. He built his own family like a business enterprise, thoughtfully and for the long haul. He was married to one woman his entire life. I don't know how a man like Rockefeller, with that face of his, fared with passion and genuine emotions, but he was faithful. 5 children were born in the marriage. In the Rockefeller family, he implemented the same reward system for achievements that his father used. Good grades in school and household chores were paid in cash. The only boy in the family, John Rockefeller Jr., would later inherit his father's empire. Rockefeller didn't believe in luck. He believed only in hard work. At 20, he and his schoolmate Maurice Clark started a business trading everything from clothes to groceries. At first, Rockefeller worked in this firm as a junior partner. In 1861, the Civil War broke out in the USA, and Rockefeller's firm made a fortune supplying the Northern States Army, the future victors in the conflict. Together with his partner, they opened an oil refinery, where Rockefeller took the next step. He didn't just refine oil into kerosene. Back then, every small firm made its own craft kerosene. No, Rockefeller figured out how to make money not on extraction, but on processing, producing not only kerosene, but also paraffin, petroleum jelly, fuel oil, and more. In 1863, he and his colleague Clark brought in a talented chemist, Samuel Andrews, who established standards for producing high-quality kerosene and other substances. Small oil companies around them went bankrupt. Rockefeller decided to buy them out. To do this, he needed sole control, so he gathered all the money he had and bought out his partner's shares in the enterprise. Then he began his expansion. In a short time, he acquired 24 small plants in Cleveland. Rockefeller didn't believe in compromises, especially in business. He said that if there was a chance to eliminate a competitor, you should eliminate them by any means. He bribed a transportation company to secure preferential shipping rates. Some oil producers he bought out, others he intimidated, but he got what he wanted. His small company grew 24-fold. Standard Oil Company. In 1870, he founded Standard Oil. This firm, like an octopus, extended its tentacles across the United States. Within a year, Standard Oil accounted for 4% of oil production in America. But that wasn't enough. When Rockefeller took on something, he wanted it all. And he got it. By 1880, the company was extracting 90% of all oil in the country. It had 20,000 wells and 100,000 employees. Every year, his fortune grew by $1 billion, equivalent to $20 billion in today's money. It was unbelievable. At 40, Rockefeller was a billionaire and a monopolist, a philanthropist, and an Iron Man. But in achieving all this wealth, Rockefeller earned hatred. The Mephistopheles of Cleveland, they called him. He was compared to the devil, and it was said that all his money was earned on the blood of workers. This era in the USA is generally called the Gilded Age. It's an irony. A golden age implies prosperity and universal goodness, but a Gilded Age is when corruption, banditry, and oppression of people hide behind a shiny facade. But to be fair, all businessmen played dirty back then, and those who tried to be pure and fluffy ended their days at a broken trough. Newspapers launched a campaign against Rockefeller. From the late 1880s, exposés began appearing. This damaged his reputation, but not too severely. Rockefeller brushed it off and pushed forward. However, two blows nearly destroyed his empire. In 1885, oil prices collapsed. They fell from $30 to 8 cents per barrel. There was too much kerosene, and the market was oversaturated. No one knew what else to do with oil. It seemed Rockefeller was headed for ruin, but he was saved by Henry Ford. The automobile boom, which began in the USA with the advent of assembly line car production, created an urgent need for gasoline, and oil prices crept back up. To shield his company from such a negative image, Rockefeller retired at 57. He decided to focus on philanthropy to improve his reputation. He donated huge sums to universities, churches, and hospitals. But the public viewed this with skepticism as cheap PR. To be fair, from his early years, with his very first earnings, Rockefeller genuinely gave 1/10 of his income to help those in need. He considered it a fair price for his success. Just when things seemed to calm down and he could breathe a sigh of relief, Rockefeller received a second blow to the gut from a female journalist, Ida Tarbell. She began digging into his company. The thing is, Ida's father owned a small oil company that Rockefeller had ruined. Driven by revenge and her sense of justice, in 1904, she published a book, The History of Standard Oil, exposing all the hidden schemes and shady dealings of the businessman. And then things got serious. The government took notice of the company. For 100 enterprises, 90,000 miles of pipelines, 10,000 railroad tank cars, 60 ocean tankers, 150 river steamers, and much, much more. At the end of the 19th century, Rockefeller wasn't just a businessman, he was a state within a state. He paid off judges, congressmen, and bandits. In essence, he controlled the industrial policy of the United States. The authorities, of course, couldn't tolerate this. Since the 1890s, antitrust laws had been in effect in the USA, and Ida Tarbell's book became the trigger. The then US President Theodore Roosevelt swore to crush Rockefeller. Amid this news, John Rockefeller experienced immense stress. You can compare two photos of him, before and after. Rockefeller developed alopecia, hair loss due to nervous tension. He lost his hair, eyelashes, and eyebrows, and he truly began to resemble a demon. A very, very, very rich demon. Rockefeller's new business system. In 1911, the court ordered the liquidation of Rockefeller's monopoly and its division into 34 companies. But Rockefeller didn't give up and turned the situation to his advantage. In the end, this only enriched him further as he retained shares and his companies began competing with each other, driving up their stock prices. Now he owned not one hypercorporation, but a whole network of assets, not always officially tied to him. This was Rockefeller's new, restructured business system. By the way, by the end of his life, Rockefeller managed to rehabilitate his image as a ruthless businessman. Smart PR specialists helped here. They advised him not just to engage in philanthropy, but to do it on camera. From then on, Grandpa began publicly handing out money to the poor and giving generous tips. Such donations from Rockefeller, accompanied by kind words, became a kind of tradition and soon filled the front pages of newspapers. This billionaire flash mob was perhaps the first of its kind in history. In the eyes of the public, Rockefeller redeemed himself and transformed into a quirky, lovable old man who cared for children and vagrants. And by the end of his life, this quirky, lovable old man had a fortune that would be worth $500 billion today, 250 times more than what he dreamed of as a child. John Rockefeller died at 97, just 3 years short of his desired 100. The Rockefeller family. From those years, the Rockefeller family took over, and that's when rumors of a secret global government began to emerge. After all, those who control money control the world. And there were certainly reasons for such rumors. For example, Rockefeller's son began developing New York. In 1931, during the height of the Great Depression, when millions of Americans were penniless, he started building the 70-story Rockefeller Center. No one believed in this bold move, but the construction provided jobs for 75,000 people. The building was completed when World War II began. The Rockefeller family earned even more money as they supplied fuel for tanks and planes. Conspiracy theory enthusiasts believe that the Rockefellers orchestrated the war itself. After all, at one point, the Rockefeller Bank, J.P. Morgan, sponsored Adolf Hitler, granting him a loan of $11 billion, essentially helping him rise to power. After the war ended, the Rockefellers built the UN. John Rockefeller Jr. donated land and $8.5 million to construct the United Nations headquarters. It was also the Rockefellers who founded the Bilderberg Club in 1954, the most secretive, exclusive gathering of the world's richest people. The club was chaired by none other than John Rockefeller's grandson, David. Every year, businessmen and politicians from around the world gather there to make decisions. According to conspiracy theorists, it's behind the closed doors of this club that the Rockefellers and their associates allocate presidential posts and resolve global issues for planet Earth. For example, U.S. President Bill Clinton was a little-known governor of the backwater state of Arkansas in 1991, but after attending the Bilderberg Club, he was suddenly elected President of the United States. There are many such examples, and they create a truly mystical, even sinister image of the Rockefellers as the puppet masters of the world. How true is this? Decide for yourself based on your own cynicism. But it certainly shows that John Rockefeller's story didn't end. Money gave him a sense of love, support, and family, and his physical family continued his work. Notably, Rockefeller's grandson, David, survived 6 heart transplants and fulfilled his grandfather's second dream. He lived to 100 and died at 102. For 7 generations, the family has remained at the center of financial and social life. The important role of the social family. So, John Rockefeller didn't invent or discover anything groundbreaking. He didn't do anything heroic on his own. But he understood one thing perfectly. In the future, one man in the field is not a warrior. A lone genius, no matter how brilliant, will lose. That's why you need to create new, functional systems. In the 21st century, the concept of the social family emerged, a group of people who move through life together. Blood family takes a backseat. You don't choose it. But a social family is your personal responsibility, and here you can make choices. Friends, colleagues, neighbors who become like brothers and sisters. The larger and more active your social family, the more connections, opportunities, and ultimately, success, money, and happiness you have. It's a living social network, a system that helps you grow and achieve your goals. Of course, in the mid-19th century, no one spoke in such terms. But Rockefeller seemed to sense the key. Properly created and structured systems would make him both rich and powerful. He thought strategically his entire life. He crafted strategies, systematized disparate elements, and built functional frameworks that he cast like nets. And ultimately, it was these systems that brought him and his family money, fame, and, as some believe, real power over the world. The secret global government never sleeps. Remember that, don't forget. 5 rules for getting rich from John Rockefeller. At the end, as promised, I'll share 5 rules from John Rockefeller that helped him get rich. Who knows, maybe they'll help you get rich too. Don't fear large expenses, fear small incomes. If you have no money, start a business. If you have absolutely no money, start a business immediately. Surround yourself with winners and optimists. A poor environment always drags you into poverty. Change your circle, as John Rockefeller advises. Persistence is the main rule of success. Remember, he visited 100 companies. Persistence can overcome everything, even the laws of nature. I'd rather earn 1% from the efforts of 100 people than 100% from my own efforts. Money comes through other people. Network. Study the biographies of the richest people to find the key to success. And remember, only passive income will bring you prosperity. Conclusion. I hope Rockefeller's story has inspired you and made you think about something. Draw your own conclusions. Also, please give a like, subscribe, and write in the comments whose stories you'd like to hear about in future episodes.